Cisco Secure Endpoint Threat Hunting Service. All right, Cisco Secure Endpoint Premier allows you to get SecureX threat hunting incidents that have been created and discovered by Cisco Talos. Here's a good overview of what might be happening versus your account versus global hunts that might be taking place. And here's a report. And right from here, we can see that we've got one asset. We can jump into MITRE. We can see a little bit about what might be happening here as well around tactics and techniques. And of course, we can jump right into the incident itself. So let's look at the report. And here we are. A nice breakdown of what's happening, the time, the tactics involved. And again, you can pivot right from here and learn more about that specific tactic or technique. And here's the summary. So the affected host executed a scheduled task.exe to schedule to launch cert-util. Here's the surrounding data to support this. Now this is really cool. So it shows the user opened a malicious Word document from a phishing email. The Word document dropped 2 VB scripts. Word created a scheduled task to launch cert-util. This is definitely unusual. Word executes one of the VB scripts if had dropped earlier. It uses WMIC. AMP detects launching WScript by Word. WScript runs reconnaissance commands to discover the network information, domain controllers, etc. Sends that data to recon.txt. WScript creates an archive called suites.cab of stolen data using a makecab utility. Then WScript uploads that cab file to an FTP server. WScript starts collecting sensitive information such as passwords in the file called goodies.txt. WScript makes an archive and uploads via FTP. And then you've got cert-util executes via the earlier scheduled tasks. Due to COM hijacking, it launches PowerShell script, simply shows a dialog box demonstrating the arbitrary code execution. All right, now we jump to remediation. And so it recommends isolating the host, perform a forensic investigation. We want to review all activity performed by host users, the affected host. We also want to upload any of the files that were highlighted to ThreatGrid for analysis. And then delete those files, maybe re-image the asset. We can also engage Cisco Talos Incident Response. The phone number's there. The link is also available as well. So that's pretty neat, right? Quick, nice summary of the incident that just took place. And again, it's based on that threat hunting activity done by Cisco. Now we've got a timeline here, but before we get to the timeline, let's look at the computer itself. We've got some information about the host name, the operating system, the install date, etc. We also see the policy in the group, and we can jump and start actioning here as well. Now here's the breakdown. The timeline's indicated. You can see any file that shows green means that it's clean. Doesn't mean that the activity isn't bad. It just means it's a clean process. So you can see WinWord under Harry user is being used here. And you can see the command line arguments that are being passed here. You can also see, as you scroll down a little bit, you can see there's the VBS script. And again, the user here, though, is questioned. We're not sure. Then you move into the next one. This is the scheduled tasks. And you can see, again, what was executed and the command line arguments passed with it. We can also very quickly look at that SHA-256 and take action against it if we wanted to. Here's WMIC.exe. Again, it's calling the WS script, and it's specifically calling that VBS script itself. You can see here, there's the command line being passed, so they're doing an IP config also. Now we're starting to see some reconnaissance take place on the asset. We can also see them looking at net group, DCs, and a domain is work group in this case. You can also see them doing a net view, NL test. They're doing this because they're trying to learn the environment, and they're going to get that information back and maybe come up with next steps. They're actually taking that recon.txt, making a cab file, and then ultimately going to FTP this to a destination where the adversary is going to be able to do their own research of the data that they've collected. So that's the recon side of it. And now we start moving into maybe digging into the asset itself, looking for specific files like password files. We're sending that to goodies.txt, and then we're making a cab file, not where, but the adversary. And then ultimately, they're going to obviously collect that data and send it to whatever resource that they're centralizing that data collection. You can also see net use being used. You can see WScript, another WScript being used here, unhijack.vbs. You can also see certutil also being leveraged here. And then you can see the command line arguments. And you see PowerShell, it's interesting, right? They've got this little caret in between the P and the O. And you can see that their message box is being shown and it's executed. And then finally, PowerShell is actually executed under the username Harry. So that's pretty neat, right? A lot of good information, but I can also pivot into the incident itself and use device trajectory and learn anything more that I might need in this particular case. And so I can see my device itself. So I can see all of the MITRE elements that have been called out. I can pivot into that. I can begin work. I can mark it as resolved. That's all good stuff. I can also do some searching specifically. So maybe I want to search certutil as an example and look for anything else that might be associated with it. I can also do some filtering here. But if I look at that little red dot, it shows me clearly that there was a compromise event. I can also see that highlighted here. This indicates SecureX threat hunting service. And again, here's that summary breakdown of what happened. So if I miss this as an example, and I happen to be investigating an asset, it's here in device trajectory as well. And here I can start looking at my, the relationships between executables and network connections and command line arguments being passed, all that rich data that's provided to you. And I can come back here and do my own analysis on top of what Cisco already provided me if I wanted to. I don't need to because they've already done that. And here I'm looking at a specific element and I can see here's the command line argument that's being passed. ipconfig all. Well, that's what we saw, right, in the summary. I'll just pick another one here and we'll scroll down. And here's net use. Pretty neat. Okay, what if we wanted to go a little bit more broader and understand what happened in our entire environment? So wouldn't it be nice to be able to grab all those observations, very quickly add the ones that we're interested in? In this case, maybe the unknown files, maybe the domain itself or the email address, and investigate that across our entire infrastructure. So this is where we get into XDR, or extended detection and response. So let's collect a couple of these interesting observations. We can add this to a case. In our case, we're just going to pivot to threat response itself. And maybe, again, look at all the stuff that's happening, but maybe there's something more to this story. Now, in this case, maybe not. But you can see how valuable it is to take that bit of information that we have now and very quickly scour our entire environment. So SecureX threat response will have modules. Those modules might be endpoint amp. It could be SecureX workflows. It could be Stealth Watch, Umbrella, but it also can be third-party technologies. But I can have a place that I come and query the entire infrastructure to get an insight into whether or not this might be seen elsewhere. Pretty cool. Now we'll finish off on the dashboard. It looks pretty. Everything's good. We're moving forward.